The story begins with a charming woman named Victoria having a casual chat with her neighbor, Julie. Victoria works at a local cafe where her coworker Shelby often talks about her happy married life with her husband, Chris. Unlike Shelby, Victoria is still single and often switches boyfriends, claiming she's searching for the right one. One day, she meets a young and successful man named Ron, who shows interest in her and plans to invite her to an upcoming company party at a city hotel. Meanwhile, a man named Jason is introduced. He's new to the city and used to work in construction, but now he leads a church charity that builds homes for people in need. He's become friends with Chris, Shelby's husband. Victoria becomes curious about Jason, but he doesn't seem interested in her. Even when she subtly flirts with him, determined to get closer, she decides to volunteer for his home building project. When she shares this with her sister Annie, Annie is skeptical, thinking Victoria's interest is more about Jason than the project itself. Eventually, Victoria admits it's true. Despite having no experience with tools or construction work, she shows up at the volunteer meeting unannounced, distracting Jason with her constant stares. After the meeting, she tries once again to catch Jason's attention, but Chris quickly picks up on her real intentions. The next day, as work kicks off, Chris gently advises Jason to move on from his past and let go of his ex-fiancée, Rachel. However, Jason finds it hard to stay focused. Victoria's presence keeps distracting him. Chris warns him to be cautious, hinting that Victoria tends to chase men more than she genuinely commits to charitable efforts. Taking Annie's earlier comments to heart, Victoria goes out and buys some construction tools. But Jason quickly realizes they're not the right kind, so he asks Megan, a more experienced volunteer, to help Victoria get properly equipped. Megan then asks a man named Wyatt to lend Victoria a vest. While doing so, Victoria notices Megan seems flustered around Wyatt, and it becomes clear that Megan has feelings for him. As they begin working together, Megan opens up and admits she's liked Wyatt for years, even though they've only ever been friends. She decides to help Victoria by giving her the easiest task, hammering a window frame, assuming it won't be too hard for a beginner. Victoria, who only joined the project to be near Jason, hadn't expected to do any real construction work. But when she learns about Megan's unspoken crush, she tries to help. Victoria offers to give Megan some tips on winning Wyatt's heart in return for lessons in basic carpentry. As a confidence boost, Victoria even lets Megan use her favorite perfume. But things take an unexpected turn. Wyatt turns out to be allergic to the scent. The accident leaves Victoria feeling deeply guilty for unintentionally causing trouble. The next day, Victoria shares with her sister Annie how difficult it is to balance house construction with her desire to get closer to Jason. Suddenly, a new idea strikes her. If she genuinely learns carpentry, she'll have a real reason to talk to him. Motivated, she does some research online and returns to the construction site with her own tools, determined to make an effort. She finally gets a moment alone with Jason and begins chatting about the building techniques she recently studied. A few weeks later, a woman named Elena arrives at the site with her 2 little daughters. They're the future owners of the house. Elena, having just separated from her husband, is in urgent need of a safe place to live and is visibly moved by the kindness of strangers. Seeing Elena's struggles brings back painful childhood memories for Victoria. Memories of her parents' divorce and her mother's hardship raising her and Annie alone. Later, while video chatting with Annie, Victoria opens up about Elena's story. The 2 sisters begin to reflect on their own upbringing, recalling the difficult days they endured together. But their emotional moment is interrupted when a sudden car accident causes major damage to Victoria's house. With her home temporarily unlivable, Victoria moves in with Annie for a while. During her stay, she notices that her nieces are troubled by their father's absence. She also learns that Annie is considering divorce, and this realization hits hard. Annie begins to regret neglecting her relationship, recognizing how fragile a marriage can become when emotional distance grows over time. A few days later, Jason unexpectedly visits Victoria at her cafe, visibly worried about her. Touched by his concern, Victoria finally opens up about her sister's pending divorce and the accident that damaged her home. Jason, too, has some serious news. Elena and her daughters need to move into their new home earlier than expected. Just then, Victoria notices a few of her elderly neighbors walking by. The next day, she brings them to the construction site and introduces them as volunteers. Thanks to their skills and years of experience, the work moves ahead much faster, and both Jason and Chris are incredibly grateful for their help. Later, Victoria invites Jason over to see the damage at her house. As they walk through the rooms, Jason reflects on how he believes God protected her from the accident. He then opens up about his own painful past. He was once engaged to a woman named Rachel, but she left him for someone else. Devastated, Jason left his hometown and eventually accepted a role as director at a church-run housing charity. As Victoria prepares to head back to her sister's place, Jason invites her to a church event happening that Saturday. She happily agrees, until she suddenly remembers that she had also promised to attend Ron's company party on the same day. When Victoria shares her dilemma with Annie, her sister suggests she should go with Jason. But now, Victoria finds herself torn between two very different choices, unsure of what her heart truly wants. A few days later, both Jason and Ron show up separately to remind Victoria about their invitations, only to realize that the events are scheduled for the same time. That's when Jason finally puts the pieces together and realizes Victoria has been seeing another man. Feeling hurt and betrayed, he confronts her, asking why she ever joined the project in the first place. With honesty in her eyes, Victoria admits she initially volunteered just to be close to him, because she had feelings for him from the very beginning. After their difficult conversation, Jason goes to Chris and apologizes for ignoring his earlier warnings about Victoria. Meanwhile, Victoria visits Megan and confesses that her intentions at the start weren't sincere. She only got involved in the project because of Jason. Later, while Jason is in his office, his ex-fiancée Rachel suddenly shows up. She tells him that she found out where he lives through his mother, and she's come to make amends. Rachel expresses regret for how she ended things and asks if they can meet at a hotel to talk and maybe give their relationship another chance. Confused and torn, Jason later talks to Chris again and asks how he knew Shelby was the one for him. Chris smiles and simply says, "We're not perfect, but we've always chosen to fight for our love." On Saturday, Jason makes a clear choice. He turns down Rachel's invitation and heads to the church concert instead. Meanwhile, Victoria chooses to attend the company party with Ron. They arrive in a sleek, luxury car, and Ron proudly introduces her to his boss. But as the evening goes on, Ron begins to say things about Victoria that aren't true, exaggerating, fabricating, and showing off at her expense. His lies hit a nerve, making Victoria reflect deeply on her own past behavior. She realizes that she no longer belongs in that kind of superficial world. Without saying a word, she quietly leaves the party, walking away from Ron and the person she used to be. All she wants now is truth and something real. Sometimes later, Victoria finally gathers the courage to attend the church concert, hoping she'll get a chance to speak with Jason. Her heart races with nervous anticipation, unsure if he'll forgive her for pretending to be a sincere volunteer, when in fact, she joined the project just to be near him. As she enters the sanctuary, she searches the crowd for any sign of Jason. But by then, Jason, feeling emotionally drained, has stepped outside for some fresh air. Inside, one of the pastors notices Victoria pacing in the back and gently invites her to come on stage and share her story. Nervously, Victoria steps up and begins speaking. From the hallway, Jason hears her voice, clear, trembling, but honest, and turns around to listen. On stage, Victoria opens her heart. She admits that for a long time, she'd been chasing after the wrong kind of love, jumping from one relationship to another, hoping to feel complete. She confesses that she fell for a man named Jason, and yes, she joined the project only to be near him. But what started as selfishness slowly became something more meaningful. She now realizes that while everyone else volunteered out of kindness, she was using the opportunity for her own personal gain, and she deeply regrets that. After her emotional testimony ends, Jason rushes back into the sanctuary, eager to find her. But Victoria is no longer there. She had stepped into the restroom to dry her rain-soaked clothes. Earlier that evening, she had gotten caught in the downpour on her way to the concert. Jason looks around, scanning every row of seats, but she's nowhere in sight. Just then, Megan walks into the restroom, searching for Victoria. She finds her drying off and gently shares some heartwarming news. Jason was actually there the whole time. He heard every word of her speech. Megan also expresses her gratitude. Victoria's encouragement gave her the courage to open up to Chris, and to her surprise, she discovered that he had feelings for her too. Despite Megan's urging, Victoria decides to leave early. Her clothes are still damp, and she feels emotionally overwhelmed. A short while later, Jason asks Megan if she's seen Victoria. Megan tells him she just left and is probably heading toward the parking lot. As the rain pours heavily and people crowd around their cars, Jason hurries through the lot, searching desperately. Just as one car begins to pull out, he catches a glimpse. It's Victoria. He runs to it and stops her just in time. Standing in the rain, Jason looks at her sincerely and apologizes for not trusting her from the beginning. Now that he's heard her honest confession, spoken in front of everyone, he tells her he's ready to give their connection a real chance. Victoria smiles, her eyes filled with relief and hope. A few days later, all the volunteers gather together to celebrate a beautiful milestone, the completion of Elena's new home. Elena arrives with her 2 little daughters, who are beaming with joy. As they step into their new house, Annie, Victoria's sister, pulls her aside and tells her how proud she is. Not only did Victoria help a stranger rebuild her life, but she also found someone who truly sees her heart. And this time, it's the kind of love that feels real, grounded, and right. So friends, what would you do if you were in Victoria's place? Would you chase after what looks perfect on the outside, or follow what truly feels right in your heart? Is it ever too late to choose honesty over illusion and love over appearances? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And hit that bell icon so you never miss an emotional, life-changing tale. See you in the next one. Till then, stay healthy, stay safe, and stay true to your heart.